All right, in this last video, we're going to just put all of these rules together. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to work each of these problems, and what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, work the problem, and then see if you got it right. If you did, then you don't have to listen to me talk about it. You can just pause it and skip ahead to the next one and keep going. If you didn't, you need to listen and look at what happened so that you can get it right the next time. So take these one at a time and check them as you go. So go ahead and work number one now, and then pause the video, come back, and see if you got it right. All right, number one. So this one, the only thing that is getting raised to the power is r squared. The 3 is not in there, and so you do not have to do 3 to the 4th power in this one. So you're going to have 3 r to the 8th power over 15 r to the 8th power. Now, this one is not complete because you've still got r's that you need to get together, and we need to see if 3 over 15 can be simplified. So I'm going to put that in my calculator, and it can. So that's going to be 1/5. We got r to the 8th over r to the 8th. Then we're going to do 8 minus 8. So that's going to give me r to the 0 power. Let's try to write that over here, that r to the 0 power is 1. So I don't need any of these guys. My answer is just 1/5. 1/5 times 1 is 1/5. So my answer doesn't even have an r in it. All right. Number 2, I do have to do power to the power in the denominator only. So the numerator is going to stay the same for right now. Then I'm going to do 3 to the 5th power, and that's 243. And then c to the 10th power, because 2 times 5 is 10. Now I have to do 6, fraction, 6 over 243, and see if that fraction will simplify. It does. It simplifies to 2 over 81. And then I'm going to go ahead and write that down. And then I'm going to look at these c's. So I'm going to have 2 minus 10. So I'm going to have c to the negative 8th power. Well, that means that that c needs to go to the denominator. So I'm going to have c to the 8th power in the denominator. 2 is the only thing that stays in the numerator. All right, for number 3, again, the only thing I have to raise to the power of 3 is the v to the 5th. So the numerator stays the same, the 6 stays the same, and then I'm going to have v to the 15th. Remember, order of operations says we've got to do the parentheses first, so that's why I did that first. Then I'm going to focus in on this fraction. So now I'm going to put 3 over 6 in my calculator and see if that simplifies, which it does. Oh, shoot. I don't know where that 4 came from. So 3 over 6, 1/2. And so then I'm going to have, oh, I forgot to change back to a pen. 1x to the 8th over 2v to the 15th. Now, I can't do anything else because x and v are not the same base. So I cannot subtract and divide right here because they are different. The only thing I can do is I can remember that this is 1 times x to the 8th, which is just x to the 8th. So I don't need that 2, or I'm sorry, I was writing a 2. I don't need that 1 on top. Now I do have to keep the 2 on the denominator, but the 1 times x to the 8th is just x to the 8th, so I can just leave that. Okay, number 4. I have another problem similar to the last one where I just have to do s to the 5th to the 3rd. The negative 3 is not included. I'm going to leave everything alone right now until I get rid of those parentheses. So 5 times 3 is 15. Now I'm going to see if 4 over negative 3 will simplify. P.S. it doesn't. So I'm just going to leave 4 over negative 3. Then I have negative 1 minus 15. That's negative 16. So I have s to the negative 16th power. So that means that that has to go in the denominator so that it can be positive. So very similar to the second one we did. Number 5, this one I do have to do negative 2 to the 5th power because it's in those parentheses as well. So it's going to be negative 32 x to the 15th power over 10 x to the negative 3rd power. So the first thing I'm going to do is see if I can simplify the fraction negative 32 over 10. If your calculator gives you a decimal, hit math, enter, enter, so that it will change it back to a fraction. No decimal answers are allowed. Okay, so that's going to be negative 16 over 5. Then let's look at this division. So we're going to subtract 15 minus negative 3. Well, that's 18, so that's positive. So that means I'm going to have x to the 18th power on top and only 5 on the bottom. So there's that one. Number 6, to get rid of the parentheses first, I'm going to do r to the 3rd to the 2nd power. So 3 times 2 is 6. Then I'm going to check out that fraction. So what? Negative 5 over negative 2. And it only simplifies by negative. Negative is a positive. So I'm going to keep 5 over 2. Then I have b to the negative 6. But I have an r to the 6th. So I can't combine those because b and r are not the same. But b to the negative 6, oh, that's not going to work. I've got to move that to the denominator so it can be positive. R to the 6th is already positive. That means it's in the right place. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to move it because I want it to stay positive. If I move it back upstairs, it's going to be negative. So I don't want that. All right, number 7 has a lot happening. So we're going to have 2 to the negative 3rd power. So that's 1/8. I'm going to go ahead and make a big fraction because we have a lot happening. Then I'm going to have negative 5 times negative 3. So that's r to the 15th. Then I'm going to have 4 times negative 3. So that's going to be s to the negative 12th. I know that's negative, but we've still got more to do down here, so we'll have to take care of that in a minute. Usually taking care of the negative is the last thing that you do. On the bottom, we still have 6r to the 7th, s to the 5th. Well, I have to account for the fact that I have an 8 down here now, so that means I'm going to multiply that 1/8 to 6r to the 7th, s to the negative 5th. Oh, I almost wrote 15th. Okay, so I'm going to do a lot of things at once. I'm going to leave my 1. I'm going to do 8 times 6. Those are coefficients. I can just multiply them together. So 8 times 6 is 48. You can use your calculator if you need to. Then I'm going to look at my r's. So my r's right here, they're kind of spread out. I have r to the 15th over r to the 7th. So I'm going to do 15 minus 7. That's going to give me r to the 8th. So that goes, whoops, on the top because it's positive. Then I'm going to look at the s's. So I have s to the negative 12th and s to the negative 5th. So I have negative 12 minus negative 5 is negative 7. So s to the negative 7 means I'm going to have s to the 7th on the bottom. If it's negative, I got to move it to the bottom to make it positive. So the only thing here that I don't need, you guessed it, this 1. So I'm going to rewrite this as r to the 8th because 1 times this, 1 times r to the 8th is just r to the 8th, over 48 s to the 7th. Okay. Number 8, I have to do 2 to the negative third power. 2 to the negative third power. So that's, again, 1/8. And then I'm going to have y to the 5th to the negative third. So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. I'm going to leave that up here for now, but I'll come back to that. Then on the bottom, I've got x to the 5th and y to the 3rd. Oh, I left out my 2. Shoot. So on the bottom, I should have 8 from the fraction times 2. X to the 5th, y to the 3rd. Okay. Just like before, I can multiply these coefficients together, 8 times 2, and get 16. So I'm going to have 1 on top, 16 on the bottom. Then this x to the 5th, there is no other x, so I can't do any division with it. And since it's x to the 5th, that means it's supposed to be in the denominator. And then I have to do my y to the negative 15th and my y to the 3rd. I got to get those two together. So I'm going to do negative 15 minus 3. So that's negative 18. Well, if it's y to the negative 18, that means I need to have y to the 18th in the denominator. So the only thing that got to stay in the numerator was the 1. It's crazy how that works out sometimes. Because if you look at these are all very similar numbers, but nothing canceled out. And number 9 has no power to power. Number 9 just needs us to get everybody in the right place because there are lots of negatives there. That means that they are not where they belong. So the first thing we need to do is check negative 4 over 3 and make sure it is simplified. I'll go ahead and tell you guys it is. So it's going to stay, oh, that's really crooked. It's going to stay negative 4 over 3. Okay? Then let's look at the y's. So there isn't an x, there's a z, but it's by itself and z goes last. So let's look at the y's. So we've got negative 2 minus negative 7. So that's positive 5. So that means y to the 5th stays on top. Now that should make sense to you. This negative 7 is in the wrong place. It needs to move up to the top. And negative 2 and 7, if it were moved up there and was positive, would be 5. So hopefully that makes sense to you that that should be positive when it moves up there. However, when we look at that z, it's also negative. It's in the bottom, so that means it doesn't belong in the bottom. It needs to move back to the top as well. So z to the 5th also needs to move to the top. And if you want to, you can move that 3 over to the middle to make it look a little more balanced. You don't have to. I'm not going to count that wrong. All right, so everybody has positive exponents now, so we're good to go. So that one was really just about rearranging and getting stuff where it needed to be. All right, let me know if you have any questions.